What's up, everybody? Brett here, back today casting some more Total War Warhammer 2. Another game by me today. If you guys have any fan submissions, I guess. I don't want to call them fan submissions. I don't know if you guys are fans. But if you have any submissions that you would like to send in, we have a Discord channel where you can do that. Let's go ahead and slow-mo this because I get aggressive, guys. I don't know what I named this video yet, but it's probably going to be something like For the Horde, something like that. It's a pretty sweet greenskin build against the High Elves. So, start off, I had a build that I wanted to do to punish High Elves, which is something I really like to do. I like to take rock lobbers, but this map is not very good for rock lobbers because of this central kind of weird terrain. My opponent was completely hidden from me at this point. I knew he was on the other side of this hill, but my artillery would not be able to get great value. You can still use rock lobbers if you put them far enough back, simply because their arch is going to be high enough. Their arch of fire is going to reach over this hill and still be able to hit. But it can get awkward. This is not a map I would recommend artillery pieces on. So, notable terrain features kind of out of the way, except for this forested area off to the side here where I was able to hide two of my Regiment of Renown units. The Death Creepers, they're dudes riding on the backs of these spiders. They have poison, and then Morgrim's Mangy Marauders who have armor-piercing missiles. They're a good 1-2 punch. There's something that a lot of people like to take advantage of. And because of them, I was able to get some pretty early vision of these Dragon Princes and Silver Helms coming out of the forest here. And I kept them hidden. I was like, you know what? I already know what I'm going to do. And I'm going to show you what I was planning to do against any High Elf cavalry that might show up. I have a bit of a squad here, as I often like to do. I've got the Broken Tusk mobs here. Go ahead and get a good view of these guys. Let's K-mode it. They are another Regiment of Renown unit. They are... we can't K-mode and look at stats. They are very good at dealing with large targets. They're kind of your only answer versus stuff like Silver Helms and Dragon Princes. They're not great, but if you pair them with a Black Orc Big Boss on top of his pig, and just they need a little bit more help than that. So what I also like to bring is a group of the Spider Riders. So the poison weakens the enemies. Then the Broken Tusk mob and the Big Boss can just do a lot of work. Even against something as, you know, superior as the Dragon Princes, they can drag them down pretty easily. My front line here, I would highly recommend against the High Elves, bring in at least one group of goblins with their silver shields. Let them take any of the preemptive incoming fire. And in this case, my opponent brought Sisters of Avalorn. So fire damage, magic damage, very expensive investment, but you know, High Elves get cocky. They know they have that range advantage. But if you can bait out some shots on the goblins as you come in, then that'll leave room for your cheaper front line, or your more expensive front line, I should say. In my case, my front line is pretty damn cheap, but it's Orc Boys. And most people don't expect the boys, but I like to bring them because they hit pretty hard. They beat Spearmen in a nice 1v1, and their shields kind of help them in case you are going up against a very archer-heavy build. I've got Night Goblins out on the flanks for their poison. They're also shielded as well and currently stalking. So, you know, the opponents cannot see them. That's nice. That lets them get in, get a little flank. This rock formation here kind of preventing me from getting a good wrap up. And the High Elves going to kind of have an advantage here at the top of this hill with this rock at their flank. But I'm going to do my best to get in and around. I've got Night Goblin Archers and Orc Arrow Boys. Orc Arrow Boys out on the flank because they can fight in melee. And the Night Goblin Archers in the center because they are invisible, but also do imbue poison as well. I've got a giant here. You don't get to see this big boy very often, but in the greenskin roster, he's quite good. His leadership is nigh unbreakable at 123. You pair him with an Orc War Boss, very cheap. You let him just sort of fight in the pocket with Smash Him Faster, giving leadership to melee attack, and he will just crush every swing. My caster is going to be a giant River Troll Hag with Fata Buna as well as Spirit Leech. So Spirit Leech for single targets, Fata Buna for the potential Dragon Prince Cav that I was very much expecting to see. And my opponent has some sneaky deployments here. Illyrian Reavers, Vanguard deployed behind me, which is not something you see very much. And Silver Helms. So he's got assets far and wide. He's got a front line of cheap spearmen. No silver in guard. No. He's got a secondary line of White Lions. No Pure Main Company. And then for his Lord choice, no magic. Very strange to not bring magic. But he does have Tyrion, who's a meat grinder of a Lord choice. And will often be the last man standing in many a battle. And I could see why you might want to take him. But I would still consider heavily bringing him at least Lore of Life magic so you can heal him up. Get him near his healing cap. Just let him keep doing what it is he wants to do. And the Sisters of Avalorn is shooting at my orc boys. I'm fine with that. Oh, it looks like they might actually be trying to focus fire my orc war boss. But that's pretty much it, guys. The counterplay is going off. As soon as I saw these cav units sweeping around the side here, trying to get a flank, I immediately moved in with my cav, my sort of counter cav group. My giant River Troll Hag is currently casting Fate of Buna. I thought these were Dragon Helms in the battle. I remember thinking that. But either way, it's gonna dumpster them. Let's speed it up. And I waited until my opponent was committed to reveal that I have the Morgrim's Mangy Marauders and the Death Creepers here on the side. So let your Forest Goblin Spider Riders eat the charge of the Dragon Princes, which is 80. Huge charge bonus. And then you bring in the Broken Tusk Mob, let them push through, start getting the actual damage. But the Fate of Buna, I don't hate it. It allowed me to kill the Silverhelm so quickly that I was able to reallocate more resources to the Dragon Prince fight. And because they are poisoned, they're not going to be able to get away very easily. And I'm going to dedicate some small resource. I think I'd peel off the Morgrims. Somebody just to go and chase down these Silverhelms to make sure they don't come back. And in the front line, it's about what you'd expect. The Sisters of Avalorn have decided to focus fire my Night Goblin. Wah is going off. You can see I get these map-wide buffs. But they're trying to pick off my assets, but I am also focus firing them. And this is a trade I am happy to make, because this unit is so much more expensive than my cheap Orc Arrow boys. And the Silverhelms are coming around. It's about at this point that I see them, and I'm like, oh crap. My Orc War Boss was taking a bit of a beating from the Sisters of Avalorn for a second, so I decided to pull him up and around with this flank. And we're going to get him in here in a second, hopefully. I'm chasing stuff off the battlefield. These Illyrian Reavers came in to try and help, but were not very effective here. The Giant, yeah, let's get some hot Giant action in and amongst the boys. Hell yeah. And Spearmen and White Lions can hold all day. But let's see what Tyrion's doing. Tyrion's also tearing me up on this part of the battlefield. You can see his flaming sword here. But he's got so many resources fighting one group of boys that it just doesn't hardly feel worth it. For him, anyway. He was able to pull the Silverhelms in. They crushed my my Orc Arrow boys, but I'm going to be on top of my Micro. I'm going to be pulling them back. And I've got my giant River Troll Hag. I've got my group of flanking Night Goblins, and we are in the Sisters of Avalorn now. And what archers I have that are still around and not getting, you know, punted by these Silverhelms are going to be reallocating their resources to hopefully protecting my backline and then eventually to helping us here in this fight as well. I'm parking the Morgrim's Mangy Marauders right here so they can shoot my opponent's front line in the back. And at this point, Fate of Buna is so much more expensive than it used to be. I'm going to be spamming Spirit Leech on Tyrion. And I was very worried about my River Troll Hag. Because it is a troll, it regenerates such that it has weakness to fire damage. So Sisters of Avalorn will do bonus damage to it. So I was happy it broke there, actually, before Tyrion could get in there and spank her. But it's gonna rout, but it's gonna come back. My army is still very much intact. My Black Orc Big Boss is coming in now to help clean up these Silverhelms. The Broken Tusk Mob have been brutal this game. They're gonna beat them no problem whatsoever. After the last DLC, they got an armor buff. Yeah, they're up to 100. Is it 100? Yeah, they're up to 100 armor. Those dudes are jacked. And the Giant's getting in here in perfect health nearly. And just crushing Spearmen left and right. No Fs are given. Would be nice to put him on Tyrion. He's such a damage sponge at 9k HP. My archers have moved up. I'm raining poisonous arrow fire on them. I'm bringing in the Death's Creepers. My opponent tried to do some sneakiness back here a second ago. I think I missed it. But I was able to pull the Morgrim's Mangy Marauders away and then get a nice little charge here with my giant River Troll Hag, which has stabilized. And at this point, we're winning the frontline engagement. These White Lions, you know, they're chopping through Orc boys, but the Orc boys are chopping through them. I've got my really cheap Goblins, which managed to stick around. And look at this. For 300 gold, I'm chasing off all these different units and holding them back. While Tyrion fights valiantly in the front line, but against an Orc War Boss and a Giant, even the mighty Tyrion will fall. So just an overwhelming Horde force. Let's end the replay and see what type of kills we can talk about. Yeah, no magic here for the High Elves. Probably a no-go. I think Tux 277, you played very well. I think your targeting was on point. Very aggressive with the Cav. I understand that you probably couldn't see most of my army before we engaged, so maybe thinking that because I'm playing greenskins, I'd be very cav less. Like I wouldn't have the ability to counter something like Dragon Princes and Silver Helms with shields. But yeah, not the case. I don't know what the current meta is for greenskins, but I always like to play them in huge numbers, as big of numbers as I can. I could have cut the giant and gone for like 2 orc biggins. That would have been pretty sweet. But giants, I like them in the high elf matchup. Because let's say my opponent had gone for like 4 or 5 archers, right? Something really, really archer heavy, a Lithanar, I don't know. Some their artillery pieces, Eagle Claw bolt throwers. The giant acts as a giant target. I mean, pun intended. He's a huge target that absorbs 9,000 damage worth of fire, and then at the end of the day, sometimes that doesn't kill him. Your enemy will panic. They'll go, "Oh God, there's a giant. He's an easy target. If I take him down, that's a lot of value." And they'll shoot at him. Maybe they'll do 5,000, 6,000 damage to him. They won't kill him. Your entire rest of your army is in good shape, not taking any damage. And then because the giant has 123 leadership when standing next to, your lord and everything, plus the Wa going off, plus, your leadership buffs that you can give, he keeps fighting. And your opponents just waste tons and tons of DPS in a unit like him. So against ranged heavy factions, I'm just trying to say I like the giant. I was very willing to use my Morgrips and my Death's Creepers to do more like rear flanking. If there had been artillery, I would have definitely snuck them in to the back line instead of bringing them around to the cav fight. But they ended up being very useful just to chase off units. And then, this fight didn't go very long, but had it been a little bit closer, my Black Orc Big Boss was in perfect condition. My giant was in perfect condition. My Broken Tusk Mob, near perfect condition. I had some very dangerous threats still left on the battlefield. I still had some Winds of Magic. I think I got 3. I want to say at the very end I got like a 3rd Spirit Leech off on Tyrion to do that direct damage. I don't think he had the Heart of Avalorn. I don't think he could have come back if he had died or was near death. But he did have Faint and Repose, so he was an incredibly dangerous duelist. All I knew was keep my War Boss away from Tyrion. Just let him fight Spearmen to his heart's content, kill them. But above all, keep him alive. Don't let him get sniped out by stuff like Sisters of Avalorn. But good play from my opponent. I think the map there was to his favor. However, we had the numbers. Yeah. But guys, if you like this, let me know in the comment section. I appreciate it. I got more views on my last video than I have in the past on my Total War content. Especially the quick battle stuff. I'd like to keep making more. I'd like to cast your battles. I'd like to keep doing more of my own. Like I said in the beginning, we have a Discord channel if you like to submit replays. I've often done replays from subscribers. But I'd love to do some fresh people. Maybe people with fresh outlooks on the current meta. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. I'm Brett. Channel's Goodtalk Gaming. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Take care, y'all.